of people here, mostly Hispanics right now, and we, we, not they, but them, we need to some legal representation so we can fight against the city, because the city is just don't care for us, don't care about us, don't care about that, not at all. So they're charging us taxes just like anybody else, and they spend tons of money on their employees. The city manager is making tons of money. They have 6 other managers, each one of them making $150,000. But they can't find any money. They haven't got zero money to spend on us. They eventually, after pushing so much, we get those 2 porta parties. That's all we get from them. And it's just not fair. I know a lot of the guys, employees there, myself, these 3 friends that I went to high school with, and yet they don't care. As soon as they became like attorneys and stuff like that, they forget about us. I know one guy, he's attorney for housing. I talked to him and he just turns his back on me.
There's no money in it.
There's no money. But how come the city manager is making about $350,000? They can take $100,000 and give it to the poor, to the needy, to give us some food. But they don't. And then you try to blame guys that use drugs. If they had a job, I'm sure they would stop using drugs. Most of them will. But unfortunately, what it is they don't care. They don't care. City council members don't care. They make things, they make stories, and they say, oh, the people living at the levee are living there because of their own choice. How can you justify, how can you possibly make any sense to that, saying that people would rather live on the levee than live in a nice apartment, warm place? It makes no sense at all. But they just don't reason. They don't understand. And they don't let you be there when they have these city meetings. They don't let us be there. They don't let us talk about anything that relates to us, the needy, the homeless, the sick, the veterans, the elder. They just don't understand. They don't care about us. Just they're collecting our taxes. They're collecting our money, and they don't give us nothing in return. They feed us or housing us. Give us fair housing. When I was with Pajaro Valley Affordable Housing Corporation, that was the whole idea. The whole idea was to end with the lack of housing in this area, because there was basically everybody complained there was no housing available. And we created tons of housing. We created like 15 years, 17 years ago I was with Pajaro Valley Affordable Housing Corporation, while Kathy Bernard was executive director. We created like 7 or 8 different complexes, apartment complexes, and none of them went to the people here in town. They all went to people from Salinas, from Gilroy, from Santa Cruz, from everywhere else, but the people that needed the help right from the beginning are still on the levee. Why? Because HUD, who makes the decision of who's going to get the vouchers, is not looking for the people, local people here. Because they don't care for us. They don't care about us. They don't care about whether they get a house, fair housing, or nice housing. You can't afford an apartment. Each one of these apartments are over $2,000. I mean, people working on the farm. This is a farming town. This is not a highly industrialized city. It's not a touristic center. This is a farming town. Everybody picks berries, one kind or another. Works on the farms, on the mushroom farms. Works on picking up the lettuce. How can they afford apartments that cost $2,500, $3,000 for the house? They can't afford it. And the city refuses to control that. The city refuses to control the price and all these corporations, because they're owned by corporations. They charge for just minuscule little tiny apartment. Look at the door where the door is. It's a 2-bedroom place, a 3-bedroom place. They pay $2,500 for it. To move in, you pay like $5,000. They keep on raising up the rents. I mean, people doesn't make that much money on a month. Sometimes you have a couple. Both of them have to be working to be able to afford the rent. And not accounting the food, transportation, insurance, telephone. I mean, the line goes on and on and on and on. And they don't care. I mean, talking about the city not caring a lot of city councils are just sitting on their bench and not talking to protect the poor, the needy, the elderly, the workers. They don't care about us. All they care is about their seat on their chair and just making decisions that pretty much protects the interests of the wealthy, the slumlords, the large corporations that own those apartments. That's all they talk about. That's all they do. They don't talk about us. They don't care about us. So I got involved. I've been involved for almost 40 years. I've worked 17 years with the Pajaro Valley Affordable Housing Corporation and the Pajaro CC, Pajaro Community Development Corporation. The first chairman we had, the first executive director we had at Pajaro CC, it was Maria Castro. And then we had Ray Vigil, which was the chairman of the board of directors while I was there for about, I think it was 7 years when he was there. And there was Tila Guerrero, the second chairman. The city, the one who pushed us out. We didn't want no employees from the city to be on the board of directors because it's a conflict of interest. And yet they got away with it. They got the city involved. It was Gary Smith and Steve Solomon. Steve Solomon was the city manager. And Gary Smith was assistant city manager. Both of them pretty much push us to force us to accept these 3 employees for the city to be on the board of directors, which is a direct conflict of interest. How did they do it? We had to finance the building right on the corner of Main Street and Bishop Street, the Vigil building. We had $950,000 to build the building. All suddenly the building became expensive. $150,000, $1.5 million. And they went and got $500,000 from the state of California, which gave them a way of manipulating us. And that's how they said, okay, they had the right to decide on where was the organization going. I got disappointed, and I moved away from the organization. And now the organization is on the city's building. It's a total conflict of interest. We've been trying to sue them, but we can't afford an attorney to sue the city for these reasons. It's incredible that they get away with all these things. It looks like a tyranny. It doesn't look like a democracy. The same thing with the Pajaro Valley Affordable Housing Corporation, Captain Director. Now the organization is on the same building, and they get to say whatever they like to say. I'm talking about the city, manipulating the Pajaro City. I lasted with them 17 years. Then I was with Chavez at Monterey Mushrooms. I came into Monterey Mushrooms like any other worker. I was shipping and receiving clerk. I used to unload the orders from the computer and give it out to the workers, to the shippers. But we had problems with us being abused by the foremen and supervisors. And there was never a solution for that. The only things that we were willing to listen was the grievances they had against the workers, but not the grievances the workers had against the foremen and the supervisors, because there was none of that stuff on the contracts. The contracts the Chavez agreed to. So we started rising up and there was a couple guys that used to belong to the Cesar Chavez Union. And David Thibodeau and David Thibodeau and I can't remember the other guy. But anyway, there was them 2 guys and there was myself, but I was director of grievances. I was the one in charge of setting up all the reps, all the representatives of the union, of the Monterey Mushrooms, and they will bring over all the grievances to me, and I will take them over to the general manager for Monterey Mushrooms. But since we started fighting up grievances against the foremen and the supervisors, there was no such agreement on the contract. So they refused to touch those grievances. We took them to the California, Salinas, the place, it's a state board. And we took all the ones that weren't willing to talk about, we took it to them, and they took the grievances against Monterey Mushrooms. Monterey Mushrooms also had these practices where they were letting go of people and not paying them the same day. According to the state of California, they were supposed to pay them the same day they get let go. They would let them they will have them wait like 2 weeks. And so we filed like about 250 grievances against Monterey Mushrooms for that practice alone. And it cost them like $500,000. But they were not happy at all. The manager was like cussing at me, saying that we were all for grabbing. Chakasimi is the owner of the Monterey Mushrooms. I don't know if you guys know about that. Chakasimi owns Monterey Mushrooms. He used to be, he's actually nephew of the Shah of Iran. Have you ever heard of Shah of Iran? Yeah, he used to work with the CIA. He was security for the Shah of Iran, and so he has some leverage with the CIA and with his congressmen and senators in the Capitol. So anything he wanted to, he could get. They had the special camera guys. We had an office right across from the airport in a house. And they were right across from there. We had these guys from the CIA and SI. They had the cameras and all. They looked like a genuine reporter guys, but they were not. We knew they were CIA. We knew they were FBI. And they were against us because we were rising against the Chakasimi. Chakasimi being one of the wealthiest guys in the area, and he owned all the Monterey Mushrooms farms. He owned the one of I can't remember the name of the street, but biggest Monterey Mushrooms, the biggest mushroom farm in Monterey County. And then he also owned MFI. He also owned Morgan Hill. Both of them things went down. They closed them. But they also opened another one in Mexico. So the guy's got tons of money. And he's got the influence from the Capitol, from a lot of corrupt officials, Congress and senators. They don't care about the poor, the workers at all. All they care about is their own interests, getting wealthy at the expense of the poor. The salaries they were paying us back then, I was cheaper than Civic. When they let me go, they pushed me out because I was obviously being executive director of the grievances. I was a big shot of the organization. So they wanted to get rid of me like right away, and they got rid of me. So I went and got another job in a different place, making $5 more than I was making with that guys. And I was cheaper receiving clerk. Same thing, same deal. Because they were so cheap. Chakasimi is so cheap. He's got the same guys with the same. They got still Cesar Chavez Jr. there, but paying them basically the same salaries they were paying back in the 90s. Come on. What is the caring for the people, for the community? These guys just come on with, they're wealthy, they don't care about us. All they care about buckets. Fill the buckets with their money. And that's the way it is. All these towns, we all depend on those jobs. A lot of the people working at Monterey Mushrooms live here in Washington. Most of them do. I used to live here in Washington, and I still live in Washington. I've been living here in Washington for almost 50 years, my entire life. And I went to high school here. I mean, I wasn't homeless. About 7 years ago, I was homeless, but I became ill with diabetes. So I ended up on the streets because I couldn't work the way I was. I'm a carpenter. I went to school to become a carpenter. I mean, I've been doing, I prepare myself, I consider myself professional, semi-professional, but still I try to become something, you know. I try to become a teacher. Back in the 80s, there used to be something called bilingual education, and I wanted to be a bilingual teacher. But because I got married and my wife wasn't supporting me, I ended up having to dump the school, dedicate myself to my work, to my family. But that's the way it is, you know. Sometimes things don't work out. That's life, you know. And now I'm involved with Margot. Oh, before then I became. I was a member of board of directors with CAV, Community Advocacy Board. I'm also an organizer, labor organizer. So we organized the guys from 41st Avenue, and we created a center. It's called the 17th Avenue Day Labor Center. I and this other guy, we organized the workers on 41st Avenue. CAB was behind it. I didn't even know they were behind it because the lady that approached us, she told the organization was going to be ours and not CAB's. I didn't even know that she was working for them. So she pretty much lied to me. Anyways, me so the guy organized the workers. We voted to accept the promise that we were creating this organization to organize the workers and get better wages. Somewhere before we started getting ready to open the office, we're finally finding out the organization we were creating wasn't going to be in our hands. It was going to be in CAB's hands. They lied to us. And what happened is I got frustrated. They were trying to get me to sign a paper saying that I had agreed that they were not going to. We were asking a raise from the minimum we was getting at 31st, a couple bucks, $3 more. And they refused. They said, we can't do that. We have bylaws. The bylaw says this is how much we can pay you. So we disagree with that, and none of them got show up at the opening of the office. So they were trying to use me to get everybody convinced to come back to the office. But they used the Catholic Church to rent them the house that is on 17th Avenue by a cemetery. And I tried to talk to I can't remember the name of the guy, he's in Monterey. I tried to tell him, you know what, we got manipulated by CAB. They lied to us. And we got to know the truth about it. But I never got a chance to talk to the guy. The man in charge, big guy, I can't remember what's the name of it. It's not I don't know what the big shot guy in Monterey. But anyways, we got duped by CAB. I was sitting on the board of directors because one of the members, Javier Rodriguez, he fooled me, let me think that we was going to be able to let the workers have their own organization and be able to make the decisions, change the bylaws, because the way they had the bylaws was totally related to serving CAB. I never agreed to belong to a organization such as CAB because CAB, although they do help the community, they have their own agenda. And we wanted to have our own organization where we had our own agenda and our own bylaws and our own rights to elect individuals that will serve our interests. But under CAB, we cannot do that. We had to do whatever CAB said. The lady that pretty much misled us, lied to us, whatever you like to call it, she just never willing to listen to us. So I told her, you know what, I'm not singing around here. You're working for them, so you're protecting their interests. I'm not here to protect your interests or your job. I came to protect the interests of the workers because I speak for the workers, and the workers trust me with their vote. So we can have our own organization and look for better wages. We wanted to make better money. We cannot do it the way working with CAB because CAB dictated how much we could make and how the bylaws was made. Every organization, every non-profit, they have to have their bylaws. And it's the state of California requirement. Every one non-profit organization has to have the bylaws. We wanted to change the bylaws the way they had it. It was not beneficiary to us. It was not in accordance to what we believe. We were always dependent on CAB. So I gave up on them. They're back in 41st, they're still in 41st. The CAB still owns the 17th Avenue Day Labor Center, which they claim they're helping the poor and the homeless and stuff, and it's a lie. It's a farce. It actually belongs to them. They're the ones who make the decision. They make the decision, they make all the decisions. And if you want to belong to the organization, you have to follow the rules. I never agreed to that. I was lied to. And so I come to things that sometimes work, sometimes don't work. But at least I try my best to help people that I believe on, the guys, the poor, the needy, the elder, the sick, the veterans, you know. But you got people against us. in some ways, like CAB looks like a really nice organization, and it is in some senses. But when they do things like that to us, I don't know. I get confused. Why would they do something like that to us, knowingly they originally wanted to be an independent organization? We don't want to be part of CAB. If I would have known they were going to be owned by CAB, I would never would organize the people. I would never have been involved. I would have been involved with the 17-day labor center. Never. Because I believe on us having our own organization, electing our own officials, and making our own money, the money they wanted to make. Because that was the whole idea. But guess what? We got taken for a trip by something that looks like a genuine organization. What can we do?
You get involved in the process like you've been doing.
I continue doing it. Now I'm with Margot, feeding the people here. I've been all around. For 40 years I've been doing this. Serving the poor, the needy, the elderly, the sick, the veterans, everybody. Because a lot of the veterans, they look like, well, we're homeless in some ways, but the thing is, it's not by choice. None of the poor are poor by choice. We're poor because we were pushed. This nation is supposed to protect us. It's supposed to give us, like the Constitution says, fairness and justice for all. But guess what? Where's the fairness? Where's the justice? Enough for all. We ended up in a trap. The American dream is gone.
Only for as long as you can afford it.
Yeah, that's if you can afford it. My name is Victor Pacheco, yes. I was born in Hollister. I was raised here in Watsonville. And I've been involved with nonprofits for about 40 years. Different ones I mentioned. The Pajaro CEC, Pajaro Valley for All Housing Corporation. Like I said, Pajaro CEC, the original executive director was Maria Castro. She was the original director that we had. And then with the Pajaro Valley for All Housing Corporation, we had Kathy Bernard, and she was there with us for about, I was with them for about 70 years. She was, after they let me go, they stayed for another 2 years. I moved away from here because I was so frustrated with the way these nonprofits don't really do what they claim they want to do. So they have been pretty much, the goal is for Pajaro Valley Housing Corporation was to relieve the housing issue. But because they gave all this housing to HUD, ended up on the wrong hands. To me, that's the wrong hands. HUD is not the right hands. You're providing land and housing that's supposed to go for the people in town, and what happens is ends up on hands of people from Salinas, Gilroy, from Santa Cruz, from San Jose, Monterey. They what's got to do with the people that live on the levee. They're still on the levee. And now they say, oh, they're all drug addicts and homeless and they're just garbage. They deserve something decent. We all deserve something decent. What did we end up with? Same garbage. Because the people that's supposed to protect us is not really protecting us. HUD is not protecting us at all. They have just numbers. They have these tables. They have this. If you make so much, you pay such a percentage and blah 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 blah. A lot of the people don't work, and they can't afford. They're pretty much paying the same rent they pay in Santa Cruz. They're paying in Watsonville, in a farming town. This is a farming town. So, anyways, thank you very much for listening to my part of the story.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.